Hi guys, good afternoon. So we are actually doing a new Unraid build, not a brand new build as such, but this is one of my old boxes. I've got 3 servers, so this is the 3rd one. Not too much, it's got a bit of dust in the fans, the radiator, water cooler radiator here, we've got to get out and clean out as well. The cooler, CPU block cooler, we need to turn around because I can't fit the other memory stick, because this originally had 16GB RAM in it, and we're now putting in 32 gig, so 4 of these sticks. The last stick won't actually go because the pipes are in the way, so we need to take that off the CPU and remount it the other way around and back on. So it's still got plenty of scope on the pipes here, so I can actually maybe rotate it that way around, so the pipes may actually then start going upwards, so they're more not dangling so much here. So that's what we're going to actually do. So I thought I'd do a live stream video. So I'm going to strip all this out. Well, actually, I'll do it as I go. So I want to strip all this out. It's got onboard network card, and I've installed. I've also got a dual network card here, which is only 10100 gigabit cards, so nothing fancy. But hopefully later on we can replace this with a 10 gig Ethernet card, maybe. We'll see. So when it goes, what like. I originally had a standard graphics card because these motherboards don't have onboard video, so I literally just stuck a very cheap MSI graphics card in there for the moment. But we're going to take this out. We're not going to use it anymore, but we're going to replace it with Asus 1050 Ti graphics card, because what I want to do is, once that's installed, I want to pass through this to one of my VMs, which is Windows 10, and run it straight from there. So, because at the moment I did have a PC here mounted, but I sold it. So, but I still need a PC to work from. So therefore, the best way of doing it, rather than spend money on another PC and do another upgrade and stuff, we know Unraid is able to pass through the hardware to a VM itself. So, as long as you've got a decent dedicated graphics card, we can dedicate some of the USB ports on the back here to the VM itself, so I can run mouse and keyboard off of it. And that way I'll have an Unraid box that's running VMs in the background, but one of them has a pass-through, so I can then put a screen up on the wall, mouse and keyboard here, as if it's a full workstation. So then I should get full access to the card, and we can play some games on it as well, because passing through on the VM can actually allow you to play games as long as you've got a decent graphics card, decent amount of RAM assigned to it, and maybe a couple of CPU cores assigned to it, which then should achieve a bit of gameplay maybe. I tend to want it more for admin purposes, writing Office, Outlook documents, things like that, just general anyway. But we'll test it and we'll see what a VM, how fast a game will run on a standard AMD chip. So it's not an AMD Ryzen, it's just a standard AMD chip. I'm sure it's the AMD FX chip itself. It's got 8 cores and it runs around about 3 to 4 gigahertz roughly on that, without double clocking, just standard. So this is just standard cheap boards to show that you can do Unraid on a budget. You don't need all these fancy Ryzen 5 Intel i9 processors in here. Nice to have that, but also I don't have the budget for that. So this is what this is all about. So that's what we're going to have, is the Asus 1050 Ti gaming card in there, which will pass through to one of the VMs itself. The reason I'm doing this box, because this originally was a server at my flat. I was synchronizing all the files from here to my flat. Now, I've now brought some new SSD drives, so I'm taking these SD drives. This came spare because I've got a box at home that I have 2 drives in it. They're both 10 terabyte drives each, and I use that as local storage for my Mac because it's just easier. And I synchronize some folders off of these Unraid boxes to my flat, so I can work here or my flat, doesn't matter, because I synchronize both directions. So I don't really need a full-fledged server at my flat. I was originally going to move all the servers here to my flat, which I will do soon, but not just yet, because I want to build a gaming desk so I can fit all these 3 servers into a desk itself, and that way my cat can't play around with all the cables. So first of all, these were fitted with 250 gig SSDs, so we're taking those out and replacing them with 500 gig SSDs. So that's normally the cache drive for Unraid. Then I had 4 of these drives, which were mixed match, 3 terabyte Seagate, so I've got Seagate and Toshiba. They're the ones I originally started buying. Then I upgraded my hard drives to the Iron Wolf, which are full proper NAS drives with about 5 years warranty on them itself. So I've taken those out because this doesn't need these drives to be in it. I'm literally building this box server now as just running VMs on it. So I already got VMs running on one of the servers down here, but I'll need to assign more RAM to it. But that's already maxed itself out. So I'm going to take some of the VMs off of those, put those in here. We can then assign more RAM to the VMs, and then because I'm taking some off of that box, I can assign more RAM to those VMs to make it all a bit much faster. And it's a cheap way of doing it. I could go the route of buying a Ryzen 7 or the latest Ryzen processor, which is going to cost thousands of pounds. It's going to cost £1,000 for the motherboard to be able to upgrade the motherboard, stick some decent cards in, max out the SSDs, maybe 2 terabyte SSDs, creating a really fast cache pool on a RAID card itself. It could cost me thousands of pounds, and I could then go from 32 gig to 64 gig or 128 gig and so on, but I just don't have the budget for that. So I'm working with what I've got in my own expense. So far, this hasn't cost me anything because I already had this system already. So all I'm paying, I spent, was it £115 on 2 SSD 500 gigabyte drives. So they're going to go in there. So we've got space to run about 8 in here, and I can run up to, well, I've got space for 8 or 9, but I can only run 6 off the main board itself. So later on I'll put a RAID card in it, but for the moment I'm just going to literally run it straight from the SATA cables on board the motherboard straight to the SS drive. So we'll start with 2 500 gig SSD drives. We won't put these to waste. We'll add those into the cache pool as well. Then later I can then replace them, take it out, put another 500 in, put another 500 in. And what's good about Unraid as well is you can mix and match sizes, and you can mix and match brands. It doesn't really give a shit what brand or what size you're working with. So you can always take the smaller one out. It'll compensate for the data loss with the other drives, so you don't lose anything. You can then put another big drive in there, and so you replace all of them. Don't do it all in one great big go, just do one at a time. And that way you don't have to worry about doing a backup and full backup and then restoring it. And do a bit at a time. So I'm going to put 2 500s in, then we're going to add these as extra. And then once I then get enough money to buy another 2 500s or maybe something bigger, then we can replace these drives with another big drive and just slowly to replace them all. So it's really nice. It's a great way of literally upgrading. Same if you've got Unraid. If you've got, say, like 6 of these installed on a card, or maybe 8 of these, because one of my servers got 8 of these in there, and you decide you want more disk space, then all you can do is take one of these out, replace it with a bigger one, and then it'll justify itself. Then later they take another one out, add it into there, and it'll slowly justify until you've replaced all the drives with the bigger drives, which is quite straightforward. Or you could do the hard way around, is remove all the data of all your drives onto another server somewhere or another backup device, then replace all the drives in one go and copy it all back. All just takes time, so you can do bit by bit, which is really nice. So yeah, so I've taken the hard drives out. We've got to get to the RAD itself, so I'm going to move all these bits and pieces around. I thought I'd do a live stream. We won't live stream for too long, just general catch up stuff I'm doing. I'm doing lots and lots of videos, but I haven't put them all out there. So let's take all this RAM out. So these are just standard RAM, they're Hyper Fury RAM, and these ones are, I believe, I think they're 8 gig ones each. God, it's very small, fine print. Yeah, I think they're 8 gigs each. Give me 32 gig in total anyway. This is the only one I built with 16 gig in it. The other two I've got 32 gig in. So I thought, oh, how great it is. They all got the same motherboard, and they all have the same CPU, identical. I kept it that way because then if something happens to one box, this was our box that will back it up and stuff going forward on that side there. So we need to take the other side case off, and it's great on here. It doesn't have too much stuff on the back. It's got a network cards. We've got some USB 2s and 6s on the back. Look, very old keyboard and mouse. I haven't seen that for donkey's years. And we've got the ScanDisk USB. I kept that in because that's where the system it boots from. That's where Unraid's installed. So it's quite nice actually. Everything, all the configuration for Unraid is actually stored on that little USB stick, and it's not stored on the hard drive. And then that gives. And the other thing is, back in the old days when you're running RAID, when you take a load of discs out, you have to make sure you take them out in the right order, attached to the right card. You have to make note of that and put the disc back in the same order. With this, Unraid doesn't care because it uses the serial on the drives to recognise what the drives are, and it doesn't matter if you put it in the wrong order, it will just match it on the software, and it works really well. That way you don't have to keep swapping things around. There's a lot. Oh, look how much dust is on that. So that needs cleaning off. We need to hoover this out. So I'm just going to strip it now. So look how much dust is gathered. So we definitely need a good clean on this as well. So I think the front case comes off as well. So trying to get that. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And oh, blimey, more dust. So you can see all that. Tons of dust on it. So and there's loads on the back of that. So it needs hoovering out. And I need to do this on the other servers one weekend, so I can literally get rid of all the dust, get it off the fans itself, and just keep it nice and clean. It needs a bit of TLC. That's what we're trying to achieve today, actually. So on here I need to yeah, some of these fans don't spin nicely because this is like really thicked up with dust on it, so they need cleaning off. Yeah, they definitely need cleaning off. This is like disgusting. Definitely doing it. I need a pair of pliers. I didn't think about pliers I would need. Just tacked it all the way inside here. So I'll remove the power supply for a minute. Get that out of the box. I've ordered the drives and they will come hopefully tomorrow, so we can get this finished off tomorrow once it's all out. So let's remove the power supply. This is I think it's an ASUS power supply, I think it is. Find out when I take it out in a minute. So let's have a quick look. Keep the screws to one place. It's been a good while. These are over a year old. Running, yeah, been over about a year old, and they're still working fine. Still looking good. So I'll try and keep it like in here. My shed, it's air cooled during the summer period, which is where we're at the moment with all the heat. So it should be a lot less dusty. This is only dusty because it's been in my flat running days, 24/7. So it's a bit disgusting. So now it's not the flat, it's back here again. I am looking doing building a bench, getting a carpenter to modify a bench so it'll fit not just one PC in there, it'll fit 3 PCs in there. So I can move all my servers to my flat, so I don't have to have it in the man cave here. That way I can then maintain it quite easily. I can channel airflow to it a bit better as well. These cases get gunked out with dust and stuff. So if I build the new case with like dust, some sort of dust protections from coming in, I can stick an aircon unit at my flat at one end of the room, blowing directly towards the bench itself, and do it so it sucks air through over the components, back out the back. Maybe put some sort of filter protection for dust and stuff so you can keep it really super clean. But once it's in the bench, because it'll be opened up, I'm going to get some special cables made up. So like for instance, when you buy your power supply, you get this sort of cable, which is like ribbon sort of thing and stuff. But then I upgraded this to a nice proper braided cable. When you get one plugged in, because it's modified for my power supply, because normally the manufacturer only gives you 3 drive outputs on there, and then that's your limit, 3 only. But these ones actually fit 4 on there itself, so I can fit 2 of these to my power supply and have 8 drives powered up, which is really awesome. And they obviously bend more flexible because that's how I had the drive mounted in like that really nicely. So, and then this is a bit more, it's only got 3 on it, so it's limited. So these I chuck out, and these I have in place. So I've got and also on my RAID card I have something similar to the data one as well, which comes in like 4 at the end, 1 single cable back, but it's much thinner. It's about that thin normally. Go back to the actual RAID controller card, and you can have 2 of those on your RAID controller cards, giving you 8 devices, because that's already in one of the servers here. Or you can buy additional one of these that has maybe 8 on the end of this, and you can chain it off and make it bigger, because each RAID controller card can support more than 8 discs on one card, which is really awesome. But yeah, again, I'm limited to space. So what I'm jigging around, I'm going to have one server, which is the end of here at the moment, which will already have got these drives in it. So I need to add a few more of these discs in there and upgrade its onboard to a full controller card supported by Unraid, and upgrade its cables, and that'll be that one. And the second server I got along here, because it runs just VM on it only, I can take out its original hard disks, and again upgrade it with more SSD, same as what I'm doing to this box. And I now got two Unraid servers purely running SSD all the way through, because I've got like up to 8. I can start off with 2 cache drives, because also you install your VM on your cache pool, it makes it nice and quick. And then I'll slowly add in more disk space using SSD. Then I can then maybe move the VRAM, the virtual machines onto the other one if I wanted to, or I can keep it as a very sort of working temporary drive, and maybe keep the one that's got all the disks in it as like an archiving server, where it just archive data that I just need access once in a while itself. So I have one archiving server, 2 VM servers, and one running pure large volume cache disk, so I can save stuff to it quickly, work off it quickly, and when I finish with it, projects then can be archived onto the archiving server itself for long-term storage. So that's what I'm planning to do. Is by doing it that way, because I'm not running every machine with one of these in it, I'm cutting down the power I'm using on the server, and obviously reducing the heat, because these, when they're spinning up, do produce a lot of heat from the server itself, so I'll be able to reduce the heat as well on them. And obviously the SSD drives you buy these days is they are very long lives on them now, guaranteed like 5 years plus. Some of them are now, and some of them have like 2-year data recovery, or you pay extra for the data recovery. So like the first 2 years get data recovery, the third and fourth and fifth years, and generally swap the drive out and stuff yourself. So they're the Ironwolves. I've got the Ironwolves of Seagate, which is the disk ones, but they also now do an SSD version, which is much more high performance. So they're the ones I'm going to try and go for, installing them into the boxes when I get a bit more money on that side. Otherwise, we'll just stick to normal, standard, these Western Digital blue discs, which are good and they've been really well. I've only had 2 of these fail on me in the past 2 years. Because they're under warranty, I've taken it out. Because I run more than one of these in the machine, I've not lost any data. Just take the drive out, send it off to Western Digital after I've done a returns thing on it. They send me a brand new one back in the post. I put it back in, plug it in, job done. No data loss, no downtime. As simple as that. Really nice. So these have been really good. So far, the return side's been fantastic from Western Digital. So I'm sticking to that brand at the moment. And I also do like the Seagate brand, which is the Ironwolves. They do some really fantastic stuff. I think my 10 terabyte drives are Ironwolf ones as well. They cost me at the time when I first got them. They ain't been out very long, and they're about £400 each. And I bought 2 of them. I was hoping to buy a third and a fourth, but that sort of expensive. They're really expensive. These are a bit more cheaper. They're 3 terabyte ones. So if you're going to run a system just as temporary storage, not for long-term archiving, then it's definitely worth sticking to the 3 terabyte Ironwolf ones to start with. Or if you can splash a bit more money, go SSD. But if you're going to do long-term storage where you're storing lots and lots of data, I think it's definitely worth still going for the manual hard drive, but going for the Ironwolf itself. And that way you've got guarantee that they're up running data. So I don't understand, people sometimes archive on a hard drive and put it up on the shelf, but then it's creating a catalogue to work out where your files are. So I'm thinking, like, when I first thought about doing this, I thought, well, I need a box for archiving, and I need a box I can just generally work project-wise on. When the project's finished, copy them off onto the archiving server, then have a backup box with 2 big drives in them, which I've got, then mirror the archive box to that drive. Then I got a complete backup of everything then, and I mirror the drives and running on my project box that back there just in case as well. That's been quite a good solution so far, but it's definitely worth looking at long-term storage, especially it's going to be a huge amount of storage, but it's definitely worth going to these unless you've got tons of money to spend on SSD all the way through itself. SSDs do have a failing point, but with the warranty period now being really extended, and a lot of manufacturers really guaranteeing their products, then I think in theory balancing it's both overall what's good and what's not good. The only thing with these drives, they're much larger and heavier, so it puts weight on your system, and they generate a lot of heat when they're powering up. But on the SSDs, there's no heat from them, and they're lightweight, creating themselves a lot more light to work with when you want to put off an upgrade and stuff. So right, let's get this power unit out. Gives me space to work with. So this is, I've tend to gone for the Corsair RM550Xs, which are no longer available, but they've got the 650 now and some other ones as well. So these have done me well. Not had any issues with these, and it has a built-in fan. So when your system starts putting more power from your unit, this is meant to kick in, spin up and cool down. But these never actually been spinning, so it hasn't been drawing a lot of power. So these are probably, maybe, a bit OTT for this system here, because I've never actually got that fan spinning, even with the hard drives in them. It still stayed cool. So this would probably over. I'd rather have more power than less power. Again, so but you can actually, this system probably can get away with 400 in there itself to the 550. But these are really nice, and I like these because they're modulars. So you can buy your custom-made cables for these units, because I can plug probably about three of these in there, and then have loads of hard drives off the end of it, or the other devices. They're quite nice as well. So definitely worth getting a modulus power pack. And when you get cables made up, you can get them a bit longer, so you can actually have them fitted where you want them to be fitted. And there's one company I was can't recommend, because they custom make these, so they actually ask you how long you want the leads for. So you can actually ask from where the end part starts and the power supply, how long that part you want, so you can actually channel it all the way through your case. And they'll do it for custom that way. It costs a little bit more money, but when I asked from a custom made, they never got back to me. I think I got too busy. So I'm looking for other modders out there that can actually supply a custom made one in multiple colours. Quite nice. It'd be nice to have that sort of like braided as well, so all in one part. But yeah, I mean it's done the job anyway. I got these from Amazon. They weren't very expensive. I think I paid less than a tenner for this, so it was easy enough done. So yeah, so I've got the power pack out. I need to get some clippers to undo the other bits and pieces. Got the memory out. Got to wait for the SSD drives to turn up so we can get them in here as well. This case I hunted lots and lots of the different type cases, because I wanted a case that can hold 8 hard drives in it. A lot of cases tend to be 2, 4, and that's about it, or there were different weight rounds. I wanted the hard drives to be at front, so the front fans can blow air straight over the drives, trying to keep them cool. But a lot of the cases didn't have that. They have different configurations. So in the end I found this case, which is about no more than 30 quid. Probably about 29 quid it was, I'm sure it was. I know it was a very, very cheap case. And all the drives in one go, so they all go down in the side here. And they all actually, the fans cover the whole lot. So when I've got 8 drives at the bottom here, including SSDs just here, the fans are actually blowing air over the case, which is really nice. And then I've got a back fan here, obviously sucking the air out as it comes out. So it's only extra dusty because it's been in my flat. But it'd be interesting to see if this plate, my man cave shed, is dust free or not. I don't think it's 100% not dust free. So I need to power these servers down out of hours to go and open them up to see how much is in there, because I need to do some maintenance to clear it all out. So it is gunked up when I take it all out and stuff. I'm not sure how long these go for. This is water cooled just on the CPU side. Don't need water cool anything else. So I'm not sure how long these will run for. So far I've been looking at the temperatures remotely as well, and they also be coming out, but they seem to be stabled. One runs at 29 degrees, and the other one runs about 34 degrees. But it does have a temperature marking on it to say if it hits above, then power off. But this has never got that far, and it's been really, really good. So these do definitely work. I did a test one where I stuck a standard fan in there. It was hovering around about 40 degrees, 40 to 50 degrees, I think it was, a standard. And then when you put load on it, it goes up. But as soon as I put the cooler on it, it actually was running standardly at the base mark at 19 degrees. Then when you start putting load on it, it's never got more than 34, and the other one I got roughly shows about 25 degrees on it. It's never got any higher than that. So the liquid cooling has worked really well, and so he definitely recommended getting one anyway. But I'm not sure how you'd know if it goes, because they're running as Unraid servers. There's no sort of tool that sort of will notify me to let me know if the temperature's got too high up or not. But it'd be interesting anyway. But I think if you're running something for 3 years solid, because the technology and liquid coolers changed and stuff, it might actually be worth taking it out, because it's all built in. So it's all self-contained. There's no water to change. It's all built in. So somewhere along the line, this will have a failure issue. I don't know when. We've been here for 2 years so far, but keep running for another year, and I'll keep monitoring the temperatures on it. Then we might look at upgrading this maybe later date or something like that. So, but yeah, it's been good so far. So far I've not had any issues with this. Running sweet, really sweet, definitely worth the money. Case is not too bad, it's cheap. I didn't need anything too fancy. It didn't need to be blingable or RGB because it's just a server itself running anyway. But I've noticed when I went to the data center show in London this year, I think, beginning of this year, did some videos on it. It was interesting because the servers on the data center side, they are going RGB. I saw the big power backup batteries that run in data centers. They're all RGB lit up. One company in particular had a lot of RGB lighting on it, and I said to them, that looks fantastic, it's all RGB lit up. Most data centers have their lights off, so when you look through the actual window in the room where your servers are, it will look really super cool, all these RGB lighting in there. Maybe it's only eyes for the IT manager who runs the data centers and probably have a look, you know. But yeah, it's great, and they're building a lot of RGB into servers now as well, which I don't know why they're doing it. I think it's more fancy looking, and I think in the day they've got to sell a server, so it looks fancy and flashable. People will probably invest and buy into it. But yeah, so that's it all I've got so far on this box. I've stripped it down to where I need it to be, and I need to find some pliers, which I don't think I've got them here, so I can't take the rest of it apart. But we'll do another video tomorrow when I get the SSDs in. We'll do another live stream from there showing you guys the other part of the upgrade. I'm doing itself anyway. But yeah, so that's been quite good. Standard VGA cards. It's all that Unraid requires when you're installing the software for the very first time. Once you've gone through the initial install, it's web-based, so you don't need that anymore. So I thought, well, we'll put in my gaming card. It's not fantastic. It's a pretty good card. I wanted to see passing it through to the operating system to one of my VMs and seeing if we can game on a virtual environment of Windows. So that'd be quite good to do. Yeah, when you do the pass-through hardware, you've got to make sure your motherboard supports the pass-through. So you have to check your motherboard, whether it will pass through hardware to a VM. If it does, then you can do that. Otherwise, you have to look around. A lot of the more expensive gaming boards, when you use Unraid, there's a guy called Lennox Teptix or Teptime. He uses all the expensive gaming cards, which you pay like £500 plus, and they all support the pass-through anyway. And he takes it at the next level because he has the money to do it. He's done 10 Gamer 1 hardware, where he has one Unraid server that's got tons. He spent a fortune on it, and then he's done 10 people playing games. So he had 10 mouses, 10 keyboards, 10 screens, all plugged into one big machine. And they assigned like SSDs and large amount of RAM, because this motherboard here supported over 100 gig plus on the RAM side, and that was really cool. Now he's on another video where it's 8K editors, one machine, and he's done the same. So this time now he's actually got the editors editing 8K footage through a VM, which is passed through to dedicated, again, very expensive graphic cards. And yeah, he's achieved 8 editors editing really cool off of it. That's really cool. That sort of project I wouldn't mind getting to later on. So I was thinking here, because the man cave is here, it's down the end of the garden where the main house is, and my kids live there. I don't actually live there, I live separately. And they all got PCs, and my 2 little girls are now growing up. So my other little girl, she's now got a PC in her bedroom, and it won't be very long before Miley grows up a bit more, and then she'll have a PC. So in theory, everybody in the house has a PC. Jay currently had a PC but sold it, but I think he wants to get one back. And I'm thinking, if I had the money and budget to do this with, and I had the sponsors to come on board to set up a really powerful Unraid server, we can probably stick in enough graphics cards so each one of my kids have one dedicated to a VM each, enough RAM to assign to them, and obviously a decent dual core, decent processor, so they can have enough cores assigned to each other. So, and I was saying to my kids earlier, so if I had that budget, then you guys could be gaming on a really nice fancy VM, which doesn't have any boxes in the house, apart from all you'll have is the monitor, mouse and keyboard at your bench. That'll be it. The rest will be in the shed on a dedicated box. So now that would be awesome. So if Linux is watching this video, that would be an interesting project to try out, because at the end of the day he showed a lot of these projects with 8K gaming, 8K editing, but they're all very close to the box, because obviously the box is in the same room. Now, can we actually do that over maybe a USB pass-through that maybe go over Ethernet somewhere that ends out the other end back onto USB? so we can get the keyboards and mouses into the rooms, because we're talking about quite a long distance from the shed to the house, because it's got to be cabled up into their rooms. We've already got Ethernet running around the house anyway, all terminating back here. That'd be interesting. Where we can pass through that to dedicated hardware that then that transmits somehow over Ethernet to each of the bedrooms, so they can have like some plugs, some USB points there. The Ethernet does all the translation back, where you can just plug in their mouse and keyboard and a monitor, and then they just boot onto their VM. Now that would be an awesome project to do, and that way the kids can play a decent game, or editing, because obviously some of them are getting into YouTube and stuff now as well. But all the hardware is actually in the shed here. Because at the moment, up in the boys' bedroom, they've got a long bench like this, about the same size actually. Bailey's on one side, Noah's on the other side. They've both got boxes, screens, and it can get quite messy. But it'd be interesting if we could do that going up that way. But anyway, it's another project to talk about anyway. So I've been rabbiting it on. So thanks guys for all the subscribers. Thanks for watching so far. I've got 3 watchers. Sorry I haven't seen your messages because my phone's not showing up messages. Let's come up whether you've left a message or not. Remember, subscribe. If you like this video, thumbs up. Don't like this video, thumbs down. And hopefully we'll get the hardware in tomorrow, and we can do another video like this, and we'll get it all fitted up and booted up to see if it works as well. I've got screens to go up on the wall, got twin screens to go up on the wall, because I want to connect this graphics card, because it's got multiple outputs on it, so we can get one on the HDMI, one on DVI, and we'll have twin screens running this as well. Anyway, see you later guys, thank you.